The Dunciad by Alexander Pope. Characters, themes, summary, analysis. Hello and welcome to the Discourse. The Dunciad was a mock epic poem by Alexander Pope that was first published in 1728. Originally, the poem has 4 books, the first 3 being published in 1728 and the fourth in 1743. The books are loosely connected, each taking place in a different setting with little narrative cohesion from one to the next. The title is a pun on the classic epics including Homer's The Iliad and Virgil's The Aeneid and suggests the mock epic style. It is a long narrative poem written in heroic couplets. That is, most the lines of the poem are written in iambic pentameter with 10 syllables in each line. Background and context of the Dunciad. The Dunciad follows the mock epic element of Macflecknoe by John Dryden, in which Dryden satirized Thomas Shadwell as the heir of a kingdom of poetic dullness. Pope had already made acquaintance with Jonathan Swift, Thomas Parnell, John Gay, John Arbuthnot, and Robert Harley. The group was known as the Scriblerus group, and they combinedly adopted the pseudonym Marcus Scriblerus, by using which they used to publish satirical works against political ills and other issues including contemporary authors and critics of poor taste. It was a period when the printing press was making huge strides, and that created a flood of amateur authors and writers publishing their books that reduced the quality of literature. The number of people who figured they could or should be artists skyrocketed. Pope was aghast by this turn of events, and thus the Scriblerus group started satirizing the newly emerging authors, poets, and publishers that had no literary quality to be recognized. In 1925, Alexander Pope edited and published William Shakespeare's collective works. In 1928, Lewis Theobald published Shakespeare Restored, another edited edition of Shakespeare's work. Theobald's edition was better than that of Pope's in all accounts, but the way he tried to belittle Pope was not in good taste. It was proven that Theobald was a better editor than Pope, but Pope was a much better poet than Theobald, and he proved this by writing a satire with its main character Tibbald, the favorite son of the Goddess of Dulness, based on Theobald. Pope published the Dunciad anonymously in 1728, and it contained 3 books. In 1729, he republished the Dunciad Vorarorium anonymously, but Tibbald remained the main character. In 1743, Pope republished the Dunciad in 4 books, and this time he added some new characters and changed the main character from Tibbald to Base, the new hero who is appointed by Dullness as her heir and named King Cibber. Primarily, the Dunciad is a satire on hack artists that satirized not only Lewis Theobald but also Colley Cibber, John Dennis, the Reverend Lawrence Eusden, Lord Harvey, and others. Pope tried to portray everything wrong in the literary circles and publishing market. Furthermore, the Dunciad also satirizes the imperial intervention in the literary circle. Pope based the character of the Goddess of Dulness on Queen Caroline as the fat, lazy, and dull wife. Characters of the Dunciad. The prime character is the Goddess of Dulness, the daughter of night and chaos, who is ruling the world for eternity. Her face always remained covered by a veil of fog. Her favorite son is Tibbald, Base, whom she appoints as the king of Dullness following the death of Eusden, the poet laureate. Dullness is worshipped by all, but she has got her share of enemies in form of order, arts, and the sciences. Pope has depicted dullness as various reigning feminine figures like Virgin Mary at different points by using symbols and imagery such as carnations and the sleeping Cibber held in her lap like the baby Jesus. The ghost of Elknath Sattel appears as a ghost in a dream of Tibbald and reveals images of the future to the king of Dullness. The educator is based on Scottish philosopher John Duns Scotus, who was infamous for placing too much emphasis on the subtleties of grammar rather than communicating meaningful things. Eliza the poetess appears in Book 2. She is the prize of a contest among dull poets. She is gorgeous like Juno, the wife of Jove, and thus is a great inspiration for men. She reappears in Book 4 as the harlot. Curl appears in Book 2 as a competitor in many races for the prize of the Phantom Poet. He is based on Edmund Curl, a bookseller and publisher. Jove is the most powerful of the Roman gods and goddesses. Jove is used in the invocation of Book 1 and also appears in Book 2, where he may choose to interfere or not on behalf of the contestants. Closina is a minor Roman goddess of the Cibber system. She is a servant of Jove and a goddess known for protecting sexual intercourse in marriage. Summary of the Dunciad. It is a mock epic by Alexander Pope to criticize and satirize the literary and artistic world in England of his times. Pope depicts it as a period when the world is taken over by unoriginal, insipid and boring work meant for the masses by writers, poets and critics. Thus, England appears like a mythical realm of despair where the goddess of dullness rules. Following the epic style, the narrator calls for his muses for the success of this epic. His muses are the mighty mother and her son who brings the Smithfield muses to the ear of kings. The narrator then declares that the work is inspired by dullness, Jove and fate and establishes a relationship between the three powers with his work. The suggestion is that the intellectual culture of England is being ruled by dullness, while Jove represents the classical element in the poem. Fate suggests that whatever bad is happening is the fate that cannot be changed or challenged. After the death of the poet laureate, she is looking for a new successor to be her right hand, her king, to help her bring about the true chaos and darkness in England. A competition is held for the title of most boring poet. Bayes or Tibbald, a young poet, competes, but he is doubtful of his caliber, and thus he assumed that he failed to impress the goddess of dullness. He decides to burn all his writings and makes an altar of them so that he may pursue some other profession. As he is about to light the fire, the goddess of dullness appears and stops him from doing so. She is too impressed by Bayes. She takes him to her realm of dullness and announces him as her heir, her right hand, King Cibber. All the Dunces, the followers of dullness, thus start following King Cibber. Book 1 ends here. To commemorate the coronation of King Cibber as her heir, Dullness declares a competition that includes the phantom poet race, a pissing contest, a tickling contest, a diving contest, and finally a challenge to see which critic might stay away longest while being read incredibly dull work. While all dunces are present at the ceremony, Dullness keeps his eyes on Cibber, her favorite son. During the last segment of the competition, all dunces fall asleep, including King Cibber. The goddess of dullness then approaches him and takes him to her throne in her arms. As she sits on her throne, she takes the new King Cibber in her lap and anoints his eyes with dew and wraps him in her veil. As he sleeps, Cibber dreams that he is being transported to the underworld. Book 2 ends here. In his dream, King Cibber reaches underworld where he is guided by Sibyl, who takes him to Bevius, the place where souls are made dull before being sent to earth. King Cibber is awestruck by observing the huge number of dull souls gathered at the bank of river Styx and waiting for their turn to be sent to the earth. He is the ruler of all these souls and many more. At Bevius, he meets Ecnathsatel's departed spirit. It is the ghost of the previous Nobel laureate whose death resulted in the coronation of the new king. The ghost of Ecnathsatel takes King Cibber to the Mount of Vision to understand the history of dullness and how she became such an invincible force. As the new king, Cibber must understand his kingdom's weaknesses. Ecnathsatel informs him that the major enemies of the goddess of dullness are order, arts, and sciences. He says that in past, the goddess of dullness lost ground only to the spread of science and logic. However, she is winning back the lost ground slowly, but definitively. The ghost of Ecnathsatel inspires Cibber to help the goddess of dullness in winning her lost ground back. Then the ghost offers him a vision of the future, and Cibber finds himself amid some very beautiful creatures and prophetic figures. King Cibber is told that this is the chaotic world that the goddess of dullness aims to acquire. He is told that he must help the goddess of dullness to usher in the chaotic world and establish herself as the ruler among chaos and night. King Cibber is overwhelmed by the grand planning of the goddess of dullness, and he wakes up from his dream, finding himself in the lap of the goddess. Book 3 ends here. Book 4 begins as all the prophecies and visions suggested in Book 3 to King Cibber have come true. The goddess of dullness has acquired all her lost land by beating order, arts and science. She has enslaved all the supporters of order and reason along with the muses, the sciences, religion, history and others. The goddess of dullness appoints her stooges to spread her effect in various parts of Britain. All the servants of dullness, from students to teachers to tribes and so on, arrive to address her and explain how they have carried out her will. The goddess of dullness is impressed by their work and offers a celebratory drink to them as their prize. As her servants take the drink, it makes them free and oblivious of any sense of duty and obligation to their fellow men, morals, virtues or art. The goddess of dullness is convinced that now she will not be opposed by anyone and will easily gain power over all. She offers titles and decrees to her followers and invites chaos and night to reign over them along with her. The Dunciad ends with this emphatic victory of dullness over order, arts and sciences. This is it for today. We will continue to discuss the history of English literature. Please stay connected with the discourse. Thanks and regards.